Okay, hello and welcome. This is Tim Tarango with Rapid NLP, and I am joined with a very special guest today, none other than Mr. Jim Miller. Jim, welcome.
Thank you. It's good to be here with you guys.
Absolutely. So, Jim, you and I have worked very closely together for about the past year. You were a massive influence in helping me grow my business. Specifically, we tacked on a six-figure revenue stream to my business in just a few short months. And what we're having you on the call today is to share a little bit about your history and your background with neuro-linguistic programming and what you're doing to leverage this body of knowledge that you have to launch and grow sales teams, to do group trainings via webinar and teleseminar, and really how you're able to leverage this skill to create massive value for your clients and to put a lot of money into your pocket, into the business. You're the former vice president of the Anthony Robbins Company. You're the current CEO of your own consulting company called InRive, and you've sold everything in the past using a lot of your skills in NLP. So I want to get into that and dig into that. But first, if you wouldn't mind giving the viewers some background on what your history is like. Tell us where you grew up as a kid and a little snapshot of your childhood.
Okay, very good. I'm actually from New Orleans, Louisiana, and I'm the son of a truck driver. So I came up in the streets, so to speak. So I was able to get a very practical street education, and then as I did grow up and I entered into my teen years, I realized that there was a way that people were able to be influenced. That for some reason I had this knack in being able to persuade people to do things the way that I would like them to do and the way that they wanted to do it. And so it intrigued me from a very early age, the whole science and body of psychology and influence and negotiations. And it was from there that I started working in my early college years with a formal study of NLP, of psychology, negotiations. It was at that point earlier that I ran into Tony Robbins' first book and became Unlimited Power, and became very intrigued with the whole idea of this body of work of influencing individuals. So much so, then when I was at Tulane University, which I attended with the intention of becoming an attorney, I got my degree in classical Greek philosophy because I became very intrigued with the way that the early Greeks started to develop this whole science of persuasion and influence, starting with the pre-Socratics and then working through Socrates and Plato and Aristotle, and the whole idea of understanding the human mind and how it works, and particularly how it is that human beings make decisions, how it is that they make determinations and choices, and how those can be influenced by someone who is sophisticated in that body of science. And it led me to an earlier study of the sophists, right? Who were basically learned men who were paid. These were the first attorneys, actually, that were paid to teach people how to persuade, and they represented people in trials and in courts. And so I started studying them and the body of work that they studied, which was called rhetoric, which is really a very formal, extremely formal and complex body of work in persuasion and influence. So I took all of this and then brought it into the sales arena and had enormous success right away in my early 20s. Took a summer job between my final year in college and my first year of law school just to get some money together, because again, I wasn't rich, truck driver dad, and so what ended up happening in that summer job in 1983 is in 3 months I ended up making $57,000, and I realized I was making more than attorneys were, and so I said, let me delay my education for a year. And I did so, and in that year, at 24 years old, ended up making about $127,000. And then it was in the third year that I actually was able to take over the administration of the company, and we built the company into the 7th largest company in the industry nationwide. This was in a home renovation company. So And then I started teaching these techniques and these strategies of influence, negotiation, but more importantly, and this is really what separates me, I would say, from most sales trainers, and also what separates the results of those that I train, where they've gone on to become owners of their own companies, #1 sales consultants, always at the head of the sales the sales chart, the sales teams, and that is the ability to train sales individuals, sales consultants, in actually coaching people through their limiting beliefs and using strategies of NLP, understanding how people actually see the world, how it is they're filtering, how it is they're actually receiving information through whatever model it is that they're receiving, whether they're visual, auditory, kinesthetic, whatever the case may be, and why it is that people are unable to make decisions in uncertainty. And that's really the case with virtually every decision. And it was eventually I ended up working with Tony Robbins, if you'd like for me to continue into that story. Yes?
Yeah, how you started working with Tony Robbins is a phenomenal story. I'm not sure if we have time for the whole thing. Maybe you can give us a truncated version, but I'd love to hear and share with the viewers and the listeners the specific dollar amounts in terms of the success that you're able to achieve there, and how you're able to do that by there's multiple layers of influence. You influence the sales staff and then influence them to be able to influence their clients and walk them through, coach them through the process of overcoming their limiting beliefs.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I remember when I first read Tony's book, Unlimited Power, and in that moment I said, boy, it would really be cool to work for that organization. And then, of course, all of my own limiting beliefs kicked in. And so I put it aside for about 20 years, 30 years, whatever the case may be. Right. And so ultimately I decided I wanted to move to San Diego, California. And of course, I started to do a career search. And I noticed that there was an opening, there was an advertised opening for Vice President of Sales for Tony Robbins. And it was about 6 or 8 months old. So again, limiting beliefs, which is what we're all prone to having, right? And it's these conversations of limitation that most of us actually determine our life on. And our destiny ends up being a result of us listening to, but more importantly, buying into, because you're going to always buy something. You're going to buy into your limiting beliefs on why you shouldn't do something, or you're going to buy into whatever it is that's being offered to you and experience something that's profound. So, what I did is I said to myself, I'm going to try, I'm going to do my best here to get this position, but in order to do so, I'm not going to play the game. I'm going to play the game to win, and it's a big difference. Because playing the game means that I'm going to put my resume in with the other, as it turned out, almost 2,000 applicants, wow. And most of whom were from California already and had experience in this industry, and I had neither. And so I realized very quickly that if I played the game, I would not only not win, but I wouldn't even get a consideration. I wouldn't even get in the game, right? And so what I did is I used a strategy that I had developed, and it's basically the foundation of it is outthink and out-execute. If I can outthink the scenario, the dynamic that's in play right here, and then out-execute so that I put myself in a position that I win the game before I play the game, then I actually have an extremely strong opportunity of winning the game. And that's what I play for, to win, not to play. And so what I did simply was realize something that probably no one else realized, and that is that the resume and the cover letter that was to be submitted for the position was not going to Tony Robbins, nor was it going to anyone who was associated or affiliated or experienced in sales. So the jargon, the vernacular that a resume or a cover letter written in sales vernacular, the effect that it would have would be minimized, because the actual person that would be first impacted by the letter and the resume would actually be an administrative person, and that would be a human resource director. And so what I did is I went to Nokia and I went to their website, and I found that their director of human resources was actually advertising on their own internal website for a position similar, right? A vice president of sales somewhere in Malaysia, whatever the case may be. And basically what I did, when I read his posting, it was in human resource speak. It was in a vernacular that I would never have thought to use. And simply all I did was cut and paste his words, his framing, and his logic, and I crafted my own cover letter and my own resume, submitted. The next day I got a call from the director of human resources, and from there proceeded to then go through the process, again, out executing after I out thinking the scenario. And so I also did the same thing in the actual interview process itself, which enabled me to get the job without actually saying a word about myself, which was very interesting, right?
So this is a concept that you call speaking into someone's listening, right? You didn't approach it. You didn't approach them like you would approach a salesperson. You approach them as they are, a human resources director.
Absolutely.
Which is a great NLP principle that a lot of people mess up, which is understanding that our beliefs, our values, our history is not the same and shouldn't be mistaken for the same as the person that we're speaking with.
And our interpretations.
Right.
How we interpret information that comes into us. I mean, it's because the truth is this. I'm reading a book right now by Max Bazerman, who is a professor at Harvard University, one of the directors of the program on negotiation, and someone who I had the chance to work with Tony out at Harvard. And what he starts this book with, and it's called Managerial Decisions in Uncertainty. And what he starts out with is the premise that it is psychologically impossible to make an unbiased decision. That we all bring our biases, meaning our own self-interests, into all information, all social interaction, and as a result, we interpret things and we insert consciously and unconsciously biases into those interpretations. So someone coming from, just to exemplify it, someone who is more of a administrative type of personality on a DISC model, such as a human resource director, they're going to respond subconsciously more favorably to someone who is speaking their language, you see. And as a matter of fact, they're going to respond adversely to the language of sales, because there actually is, in working with several dozens of human resource directors, there is somewhat of a chasm between sales and human resources, and there is somewhat of a confrontational, contentious type of relationship. So when a human resource director hears the vernacular of sales, it actually activates critical filters. And so now they're going to filter in a way that is, for the most part, more adversarial than it is being an ally of. So why would I want to raise those filters? Why would I not instead speak into the listening by using the lexicon, the vernacular, the phrasing, the sentencing structuring that a human resource person would respond to psychologically? And so that's what I did, and it worked effectively. And it always works. When I coach clients into preparing for job interviews, still to this date, there's not one interview that we've lost. We win every job interview, whether it be at an executive level or an entry-level positioning, simply because we win the interview before we ever step into the interview.
It's awesome. So you get this job with Tony Robbins, you step on board. I'll go ahead and say that you had at least a little bit of success, and I say that jokingly. Go ahead and tell us some of the results that you had and the driving NLP principles or techniques or ideas behind the results that you were able to achieve over there. Absolutely.
What was interesting is that I actually came to work for Tony Robbins one day after my marriage. I left my wife at the altar, and they flew me into San Diego without even a honeymoon, which I don't say too loudly because it still has bitter tones to my wife. But no, we ended up taking the honeymoon later. But anyway, so when I flew in, the first thing that I was told is that was that the company, for the most part, was on the verge of bankruptcy, which was a shock to me. And I had my suitcase at my side. It's the first 10 minutes I'm in the office, and they're telling me this, and I'm like, okay. I said, well, let's not make any sudden moves. So it was 2 days later that they flew me out to Hawaii, because that's where Tony was doing his life mastery program. And the first day that I'm there, 9/11 hit, right? So there's no more flying out. I'm stuck in Hawaii at a resort, which, you know, could be a lot worse. But so when we get back, so ultimately when I do get back to Tony Robbins, it's really the first time that I meet my sales force. And I was not well received, because this was a sales force that had been without management for almost 2 years. So they were running the place. And now all of a sudden there's this outsider who's coming in to take over. So there was somewhat of a mutiny atmosphere. And also, too, we were selling into an East Coast event in Orlando, which for the most part drew all of its attendance at a UPW, all of the attendance from the East Coast, from New York all the way down. It was a fly-in event, right? And the problem was there were no planes available. All flights still were on the ground. And also in Florida, if you remember, the anthrax event hit as well. So there was this big, huge event. And so the sales force assured me that there was no selling into this event. We would have to cancel it. Now, what they did not know, that if the event got canceled, the company went out of business. And so that was not an option. But also what they didn't know, now, what was happening was they were calling into people on the East Coast, attempting to sell them tickets into the event, and they were getting crushed. They were getting slammed. How insensitive it is. How can you possibly think to call me at a time like this? How would I even get down there? There's no flights, et cetera, et cetera. So this psychology, because at this point, remember, CNN was crashing the planes into the building every 5 minutes. So America was under terrorist attack for months after the actual attack took place, because of the news media, because this is how they were making their money, by flying those planes. And Darth Vader was CNN, and the planes ominously flying into the building. So the psychology of America was shut down. Now, what my sales force did not realize is that in sales, any external event that's taking place has absolutely no relevance over an overpowering internal ability to influence psychology. Now, what I mean by that is, irrespective of anything that's taking place externally, individuals still can be influenced into taking action if you effectively speak into their internal world, right? So the argument was, Jim, there's no selling tickets. We're getting slammed. We're getting hung up on. And by the way, we also personally believe it's very insensitive to attempt to try to make money at a time like this when America is held hostage. And so I got my sales force together. And I asked them, I said, how long do you intend to remain hostage to the people who flew these planes into the building? And they said, we don't intend to remain hostage. I said, but you are remaining hostage. Not only are you remaining hostage, but you're allowing America to remain hostage as well. As long as you buy into the psychology that we cannot do what we want as an American because of what took place now over a month ago, then you are, in fact, remaining hostage to that event, and it has power over you. And you, as representatives of Tony Robbins, right? The guy who is the can-do guy, who has the psychology to overcome any situation, you're representative of that, but yet you're falling prey to a psychology of limiting beliefs that's extraordinary. You're actually facilitating. You're flying those planes into the building right now. So with that realization, I then introduced a psychology and a strategy that we used in calling into our clients and inviting them and having that same conversation with them and inviting them to now be involved in our own rescue. And that is, we're no longer remaining hostage to this event. And as it turned out, the results were we ended up selling out that event in Orlando. It was one of the biggest events that the company had had in years, and we set revenue records on a couple of different sales models. And from then on, the company its history, that the company over time, over the time that we were there, within the second year, we had generated more net revenue in the company than the history of the organization combined. In all the years that Tony Robbins had been in business, take all of the net revenue, combine it, and we had exceeded that amount in our second year.
Wow.
Using those psychologies.
Wow.
So it's a testament to the sales force as well. I mean, it did an extraordinary job. And also to the clients of Tony Robbins for stepping up and stepping into a powerful psychology. And we had a great event.
So what a powerful ripple effect to be able to change your perspective using some NLP principles, and that ripple effect going to the sales trainers, and then ultimately going to the clients and creating just so much more empowerment for the entire group.
Absolutely, because you see, what it is, what you focus on is what's going to determine what you believe. It's going to determine what you think. It's going to determine what you say to yourself. It's going to determine how you feel, what state you induce in yourself, and ultimately it's going to determine what actions you then decide to move into, which ultimately is going to determine basically your destiny, your identity, your life, right? All starting with focus. So if your focus is on a conversation of limitation and a conversation of scarcity, and more importantly, if you're projecting past failures into future opportunity, right? If you're projecting the past into the future, you're living in the pasture, is what we call it, right?
Right.
And what lives in the pasture? Sheep, herds. So if you want to break away from the herd, even though the emotion of fear in the face of uncertainty, even though the emotion of doubt arises in that state of uncertainty, it doesn't mean that you then subsequently have to act into it. Shift the focus. Shift the focus away from and into a strategy and a psychology of power, whether it be getting with someone who can give you a conversation of empowerment, whether it mean reading a book of empowerment, listening to some of the audio programs like your in-home NLP course, etc. So to get your mind and your emotion refocused so that you can generate new emotions, new thoughts, new internal conversations, and as a result, be available for new actions.
It's incredible. Very, very well said.
The truth is that ultimately, as you develop it as a muscle, right, and you start seeing the results of it, for the most part, it becomes very easy, and you can apply it to any aspect of your life. It's certainly in generating revenue, certainly in creating a business, like we did, with the business that you're running with your company, right? We were able to, in a matter of, in less than half a year, to generate 6 figures by using these principles, right? By basically getting clients to shift their focus into being able to make powerful choices and moving into them, irrespective of the emotions, and finding that they got the results that they desired. As a matter of fact, they got the results that actually exceeded their desires because they couldn't see these results, right?
Absolutely.
Anyway.
Absolutely. Jim, what I want to transition now is what you're currently working on today. Again, you're taking this foundational principles of NLP and the strategies that you've been using throughout your career, and you're using these techniques and strategies of influence to get leverage and to earn income and to create wealth on a leveraged way. There tends to be this common idea that, if I learn NLP and if I want to make money with NLP, most people only see, well, I can work one-on-one with clients. I can charge $50 an hour. Some people charge $150 or $200 per hour, which for a lot of people is great money. But again, I want to transition and talk about how you're using these techniques on a leveraged basis to talk to massive companies. You're currently involved with one of the largest online internet marketing companies, and you get hired by other huge organizations to help grow their revenue. Speak into what you're currently doing to leverage NLP to make wealth for yourself and wealth for these companies. Okay,
sure. Well, and also too, let me speak into the reason why it is that that we position ourselves at a level of at this minimalist level, right? Again, it's because our focus is fear-based. Because we focus on fear-based, and we basically start negotiating with ourselves, and we have this conversation that that we would be better served and better have a better result if we were to offer our services at the lower cost so that we can make it affordable, or so that we can make it attractive. And what we end up doing is we end up living in this transactional psychology, meaning that a transactional psychology is basically trading hours for dollars at the minimal level. And as a result, there's never an opportunity to create wealth, to create prosperity. And more importantly, what you're doing is you're being inauthentic, because you're coaching from a psychology of limitation, and supposedly coaching people into experiencing a more profound way of life, right? And the truth is that unless you are authentically living in abundance, living in a psychology of abundance, then how can you possibly coach people into that? So basically what I do is I take the way that I think, the way that I live, the authentic experience that I have with my own life, and I share that with organizations, right? And my thinking is that the value of what it is that I have to bring to individuals, to their psychologies, to help them see the world differently, so that they're no longer sitting on the sidelines, so that they're no longer only dreaming of what it is that they can do, so that they're no longer having to watch other people be successful with this and say, boy, if only I can do it. And they'll sit there for years and try to create the perfect model on how to launch. And in the end, what ends up happening is you're losing time and you're losing revenue. Why? Because you're chasing a failing strategy. You're successfully failing. So what we want to do is we want to bring success into the game of success and win at that level by saying, okay, here's what I do. First of all, what is the highest price that I can actually place, the highest value that I can actually place on my service and my product? So what I do is I look for what is being charged, or what is the highest price, the highest value that's being on there, and I make sure that I'm at that or I exceed that. Now, is that arrogant? Is it unreasonable? No, absolutely not. Because the truth is that there are individuals that I want to speak into that truly are serious about wanting to take action, and they're willing to invest their resources. I remember the first event that I went to, the first live event that I went to, a 3-day event. I had no money, and so what I did is I sold my car. I sold my car for $2,500. I paid $2,000 to go to the event and had $500 so I can buy some tapes and all that type of stuff. And I basically leveraged everything that I had. It was 100% of what I owned, and I leveraged it. And it's because I did that I'm here today. So what I'm suggesting is this, is that what I do is I take my services and I offer them to the memberships, right? The memberships. Like we did with your group, with your members, to offer it to the memberships at a price point, to give them a taste, basically, like you're getting right now, basically a taste of what is the conversation, what is the availability that this guy Jim Miller speaks into, and to let them determine if this is something they want to be a part of, if they want to know more, if they want to be able to get this psychology of certainty, so that you can win the game, every game, before you play the game. And then what we do is we then offer this and create a marketing and a sales methodology that then speaks into the listening of the membership and inviting them to participate in the programs that we've created. And our success rate is upwards of about 85%. About 85% of those people that we speak into this program pay us, $4,000, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 for the programs. And it's not because of the personality, it's because of the program, because of the material, because of the promise, because people realize that you truly have an authentic ability because you've done it in your own life. And it doesn't even have to be at a guru level or associated in international companies. It can be even at a level that is local, but yet you still have a psychology and a methodology that people want to know, and they're willing to give you their resources. They're willing to give you their resources. So that, I mean, imagine the average consumer spends over $200 a month on cable TV. Now, if you were to take that $2,200, right, and leverage that into placing yourself in front of an expert that can change the destiny of your life, which is going to change the destiny of your children's life, your grandchildren's life, your sphere of influence life, and impact the world as we're doing right now, simply because you've got your priorities straight. Seriously, think about it. $2,200 a year for cable TV to watch crap, or $2,200 to invest in yourself and learning strategies and principles and technologies, more importantly, psychologies, right? So that you can make something more of your life and overcome the obstacles, the limiting beliefs, etc. So this is what we provide for organizations. Very little one-on-one work I do. It's mostly in groups of, anywhere from 25 to 200 or 300 up to, the last call that we're on had 1,200 people on the call, right? So you too have this opportunity. It's finding what it is that you're passionate about and then become passionate about it, become an expert at it, and then while you're doing that, not after, but while you're doing that, create an opportunity for individuals to come to you, because there's a need. There's always a tribe of people waiting to hear from you.
Awesome. Jim, there's some other questions that I really want to ask you. Before we get to that, I know there's going to be people on this call that are watching this that really want to get in touch with you in some way. Maybe they want to bring your body of knowledge, your skills to their organization, or maybe they wanted to learn from you personally. And we've set up a website that you can go to. It's http://rapidnlp.com/Jim Miller, all one word. So again, rapidnlp.com/Jim Miller. That's going to give you the ability to get in touch with Jim and get an idea for the current projects that Jim, that you're currently working on. Is there anything else that you want to add to that before we continue?
Well, what I'd like to do is that, honestly, I like to, again, make myself available to conversations and suggestions to serious individuals. If you have a sincere desire and to launch a project that you know has credibility. And how do you know that? Because you feel that desire in your heart. It's burning. It's a passion that you have. And you'd like to have a conversation with me, right? I'm more than happy to avail myself for 10, 15, 20 minutes to a conversation to see what it is that you're involved in and where it is that you're finding difficulty launching into, and how we might be able to extract you from those limiting beliefs and move you into a powerful belief system to get some traction, so you can ultimately get some movement, some momentum going, some speed, some critical mass going, and then maintain that level, and then see, and if there is an opportunity for us to work together in any of the projects that I'm involved in, we can talk about that as well.
Awesome. So once again, head on over to rapidnlp.com/Jim Miller, and you'll discover how you can get in touch with Jim. Jim, before we go on, I'm actually traveling through Eastern Europe right now with a couple of your proteges, and having conversations with them. I didn't even realize this. They're close friends of mine, which is how I was introduced to you. But they're both just setting and crushing company records in the company that they work with in different fields. Both clients of yours from a while back. So correct. It's exciting to hear. It's exciting to see.
Yeah. The technology, the methodology and the technology is extraordinary, irrespective of who you are. I've had a lot of people that said, well, Jim, I'm not a good salesperson. I want to be a coach, but I don't know how to develop a membership. I don't know. And the truth is that the traditional characteristics of salesmanship, the methodology, I tell everybody, throw away every sales book that you have, because that methodology is no longer valid. And the truth is too, keep in mind, starting with the Zig Ziglars, and even going back beyond that, the Earl Nightingales and the Napoleon Hills, right? All the guys that I cut my teeth on. Irrespective of how much sales training came out through the 50s, through the 60s, the 70s, into the 80s, the truth is that sales on a grand scale as an industry was only at a 20% closing rate. If you take any industry in sales, you're going to find out that the average closing rate was 20%, which means 8 out of 10 people are walking away. Why? Because, you know, I ask salespeople, what's the number one reason why people don't buy? And the reason they don't buy is because they weren't closed. You see? So what we do is we flip the formula. We close 80%, and the other 20% don't buy from us because they can't buy from us. Anybody who wants to buy from you, anybody who shows up on a webinar, anybody who is interested, intrigued, attracted, curious, is a prospect until you determine otherwise, meaning that there's either no money there or no availability to money. And that's the only reason. That's the only reason why they wouldn't buy from you. Anything else, it's your responsibility. And if you have the right technology and the right psychology, you, in fact, can move into those extraordinary closing rate numbers.
It's awesome. And I've seen it firsthand with my company. I've seen it secondhand by the companies that you've worked with and the numbers that you've been able to help them with. Jim, if you were to give advice to somebody, and maybe this person is just getting started with NLP and they're excited about the information and they want to take it and make money with it, what's some advice that you would give someone that wants to do that?
Okay, first of all, understand this. I've had the opportunity to work with many of the world's great thought leaders, right, from my position, not because of me, but because of my position, with Tony Robbins and also as vice president with T. Harv Eker. So working with these gurus, working with their clients who are some of the most successful people in the world, and also other associates, what I found out is one thing that's common to everybody. Anybody who is succeeding is an expert at what they do. They have expertise. I haven't met someone who is not an expert that is succeeding at a consistent level. So what I would suggest is this: begin your pathway, your chautauqua, your journey of becoming an expert in NLP. And where do you start? Well, I mean, the program that you offer, Tim, is an extraordinary NLP program that gives you beyond foundation. It not only gives you foundation, but it gives you the history of NLP. It gives you specific examples of the application of NLP. It goes in depth. It's not only a very horizontal survey of the different aspects that are inclusive in NLP, but it also drills down vertically so that you get a really acute understanding. And what I would suggest is this: it's not NLP that's going to make you successful. It's you using NLP as a leverage, right? That's going to, along with other leverage points, that's going to make you successful at what you do, meaning that you really enjoy what it is that you do on a daily basis and you're compensated handsomely for it, right? So understand this, that again, one of the number one reasons why those people that I'm fortunate to work with, and they've had the good fortune, and we've had the good fortune and blessings to be able to be successful with this, is because we really go at it as a student does. I mean, you know, a law student, how much does a law student study to become a lawyer? How much does a med student study to become a doctor and a lawyer, right? So I'm suggesting that passion of study, of intrigue, of fascination with what it is, if you can develop that and develop the habit of constantly on a daily basis consuming the information about it, you're going to develop a foundational expertise that's going to be able to give you a new vision, a new confidence, a new capability to be able to handle an extremely complex body of work, which is called influence, right? Which is sales, coaching, it's all influence, negotiation, everything is influence, right? And influence, remember, always starts with you as an individual aligning. Influare, right? The Greek word in, meaning in, to go into, and fluere, meaning to flow. So what is influence? It's me being able to flow into your perception of the world. And I do that by speaking into your listening, by aligning with you, by mirroring you, using the same NLP techniques so that I'm speaking your language, I'm using your vernacular, I'm using your sentence structure, and all of this is is it manipulative? No, well, let me ask you this question. If you were to have a heart attack and they were unable to resuscitate you using the electrodes, right? And they had to cut you open, split your rib cage open, and start manipulating your heart to get it to beat, and they were successful with that, right? Would that be a beneficial manipulation? Of course it would. See, people say, NLP is manipulative. Well, yeah, exactly. Right? Do you understand what the word manipulative means? It comes from the Greek word manos, right? Manual labor, meaning the hand, right? So you're basically shaping. You're shaping a course of conversation that is designed and influential. And I cannot say that I've ever seen a person that I've influenced into being able to take action into what they really desired to do, but they were unable to do because of their own limiting beliefs, their own inability to cross into action because of uncertainty. And what I am basically is I am that person that helps them, that brings them through that passage, that gives them a new focus, a new understanding, a new possibility, and permission to act even in the face of limiting beliefs, and fears, right? It's appropriate to still take action. Even if the fears are there, even if you have uncertainty, it's the actions that are going to change your world. And if you're waiting for your world to change because your feelings changed, you're not getting anywhere. It's only through action, massive action, right? So.
Very well said again, Jim. To the viewer now, if you're enjoying this interview, which I can't imagine why you wouldn't, if you're enjoying this, click the like button on the page here, share it with your friends on Facebook, and leave a comment. Leave a comment for me, leave a comment for Jim. We're opening a dialogue and opening up a discussion, and we'd love to interact with you. So go ahead and take a second and do that now. Jim, I'm going to leave you with some final words, some great information that I've picked your brain on before. But before we get to that, to the viewer again, if you're interested in learning how to use NLP and do the kind of things that Jim Miller has been talking about on this call, you are in luck. And that's because we're going to help you get started today by giving you the NLP Profit Blueprint CD free. We are covering the expense of the NLP Profit Blueprint CD, and very simply what it is, it's my proven step-by-step roadmap on how anyone, a beginner to an expert alike, can start using the principles of NLP to not only help others and to create a massive influence across their sphere of influence, but to create wealth for themselves at the same time. It's very simple. We've made it incredibly easy. As Jim mentioned a bit earlier, you're on a journey, and some of you are just starting that journey. Some of you are on your journey and you're going uphill, and that's why we've made it as easy as possible for you to get started and get over the hump and over the challenges that you're currently facing by making it very simple. We're giving you this NLP Profit Blueprint CD. So right now, go ahead and click the link that you see on the page. That'll take you to a page with more information. We're going to get this out to you as soon as we can. One little caveat, word of warning, we've printed up a very limited supply of these CDs because they're expensive to produce. So it's going to be on a first come, first served basis. So click the link now, grab and claim your copy of the NLP Profit Blueprint CD, and we're excited to be along this journey with you. So with that, Jim, I want to talk a little bit and close on taking action. And one of the things that now I share with all my coaching clients, whether it's group coaching or some individual clients, is the difference between decision and making a choice. Talk about the word decision and cutting away from the status quo.
Yeah, that's good. And before I do that, could you be sure to send me a copy of that NLP blueprint?
Absolutely, it's on its way.
Just fascinating stuff that
Jim,
out.
I'll even give you a signed copy since you're doing the interview.
Much. I appreciate it. An e-signature.
Yeah.
Listen, here's the misnomer. What I find again is that the reason why we are focused incorrectly is because we lack understanding. Let me give you an example of that. And this is one of the things that we do to get sales consultants or individuals that are looking to create a sales methodology in order to develop a business, coaching in particular. And that is to realign your focus and your understanding so that you're no longer successfully failing. And let me give you an example of successfully failing. If you were running east to find a sunset, you would be successfully failing, right? So what would be the first thing we'd want to do? We'd want to get you to stop, right?
Running, yeah.
Stop successfully failing. So just stop where you are and turn around. Now you are no longer successfully failing. Now you're in a point of neutrality. And at this point of neutrality, now we then use another conversation to entice you and enhance you, and more importantly, to facilitate you to start running west so that you can get that beautiful vista and panorama of that sunset sitting on the beach by the campfire, right, with the seagulls and the pelicans flying by. We do this with my own family, so I'm actually getting this imagery right now. So here's where most people are successfully failing, and that is they're attempting to get individuals to make a decision. And why is it that that is a failing strategy? Because, think about this. What you're asking people to do is to change their status quo, meaning to do something different, to adopt a new belief, to engage in a new program, to engage in a new activity, to step outside of what it is that has become their routine and their place of comfort, even if they're comfortably miserable. Still, that is a place that they're certain with, that they know. And once you understand psychology, you understand the importance and how psychologically, unconsciously, and consciously we are driven to find and maintain certainty, right? Because we have an abhorrence to uncertainty as individuals. It's the flight or fight dynamic. It's basically a survival technique. So once you understand that at a psychological level, you understand that as you ask an individual to take an action and make a decision with you, you're basically asking them to step forward, to move forward into a new action. But you're asking them to make a decision. And it's inappropriate. And I'll tell you why. Because if you look at the word decision, once you start understanding, you start studying, you understand etymology, meaning the study of words. You take the word decision. D, that prefix means away from, right? Like to defrost. Is to move away from. And the word scissare is a Greek word where we get the word scissors from, or incision, right? So if we're going to, so it means to cut. So if we're going to cut away from, a decision really is not a forward-moving impulse. It's actually a backward consideration and action that is taken. To move, to cut away from the status quo, to cut away from the need to be comfortable in that scenario so that you're now able to move forward into a new scenario. So how is it that you get people to successfully take action? See, one of the reasons why people are not taking action is because you haven't made it uncomfortable enough for them to stay where they are. You haven't shaken their confidence in the stability and the certainty of their existing situation that they think or believe and have felt comfortable is going to basically be enough to get them through life, you see. You haven't brought them through that considerable examination of where is your life going right now as it is. And so this is what we do. The first thing we do is we look backwards. And we do get people to make a decision, not to come with us, but to move away from what it is they're tethered to, they're chained to, they're psychologically enslaved to, right? By getting them to realize that there's a severe cost. There's a severe risk in staying in that. And once you start understanding negotiations and psychology, I work a lot with the material from the program on negotiation out of Harvard University and some of the professors out there. And when you start reading the literature, the scientific literature, you start understanding how it is people think. People are more willing, they're more risk tolerant in the face of uncertainty than they, in the face of loss, than they are in the face of gain, you see. So if 80% of your conversation to your client is what they're going to gain by being associated with you, you're basically driving them into their status quo. You see, because people are risk averse when it comes to considering gain. They're less likely to take action. They're more likely to take action if, in fact, they determine that staying in their status quo will, in fact, bring about harm or detriment or loss or whatever the case may be. So what we do is again, it's the 80-20 inversion. We now speak 80% about their existing situation and what it's costing them, and only 20% about what it is that we offer them, you see. Because at that point, we have so much leverage going on, because now they're ready to take action. They're ready to move. They're not making a decision to move forward. We have them make the decision to move away from, and then we then offer choices to them. See, because people want to make choices. They like making choices because it's empowering. And there's no dilemma. When you get people, if you tell people that there is a opportunity to select between one or the other, you're putting them in a dilemma. So you give them 3 or 4 choices that they can choose from as a result of their own interpretation of what's going to be comfortable for them, you see. And that's how we set the template, the groundwork for the close, which facilitates an 80% closing rate, you see.
Absolutely. And just to paint a picture or get a feeling of what that's like, for people listening to this call, there's probably a lot of people that are in pain right now. Maybe they don't have the type of freedom that they want. They don't have the wealth or the luxury that the wealth provides them. They're not able to do the things with their family that they want. And that's a painful scenario. I've been there, you've been there, you sold your car to attend a seminar, right?
Correct.
I've been in a similar situation where, I would be happy to have $0. Instead I have, I had negative $20,000, negative $30,000. It's not a comfortable place to be. So what you're saying now is to, if you're listening, you're in a situation like that, to cut away from the past, to make a decision that is not going to be your lifestyle, that is not going to determine who you are and the influence that you're able to have over the people around you, and to now make a choice.
You see, Tim, here's the thing. You made a very good point. What's really uncomfortable is not even so much the fact that I'm no longer satisfied with my level of income, my lifestyle. What's really uncomfortable are the feelings, the emotions that we live in when we're in scarcity, when we're in deprivation, when we're in stress. When we know that there is the opportunity right now, you can feel it. You can feel it in the air that there's just this massive opportunity like never before for the common man, because of the internet, to become wealthy without trading hours for dollars, right? Where people like you, Tim, can become billionaires as you are. Simply
Not quite
by
yet.
moving URLs, as you said. But the truth is this, is that it's the feelings, these feelings that we have that make us uncomfortable, and it's living in these feelings and in this emotion, this psychology, which is so debilitating, and so, feeling that our desires are unrealized, and how we're being cheated out of life, and we're being left behind, you see. You see, this is the psychology. But why is it that we can't make a move? Well, because we're stuck. We don't know what to do. We have a psychology. The psychology is so strong, right? It's what forms and shapes societies. It's the psychologies that basically move the world, the psychologies of mankind. So your own psychology is so strong that it's determining who you are, what you are, when you are, why you are, your worth, etc. All of that is your psychology. And if we don't, the problem is we don't understand our psychology. We don't understand how to leverage our psychology into a force and an energy that can facilitate us achieving happiness and peace and abundance and contribution, you see. So what it took for me was to get aligned with experts that knew this, right? With Tony Robbins, with Max Bazerman, and reading all the different books and the research, et cetera, and coaching. I mean, I've had a coach ever since I'm 23 years old. I'm 56 next week. So for 23 years, I've been coached by someone or within coaching conversations, you see. So anyway, so this is it. To be able to live in the feelings, in these new feelings of empowerment and joy, so that you wake up. I was talking to a client yesterday, and it's like, and I told him, I said, I wake up and I can't wait to tear into everything that's on my plate. And what's on my plate is probably, a week's worth of work to the average human being, right? But because I'm so passionate about it, and I've been able to position myself to facilitate and leverage, like you said, certain strategies and methodology so that I can get a week's worth of work done within a day powerfully and joyfully, right? And it's just a great way to live life and get paid well to do so, right? I mean, it really is, it's a blessing.
It is pretty incredible. It's pretty awesome. And now again, to the viewers, you have a choice. You actually have a few choices, and they're great choices, because we talked about risk earlier and facing risk and the uncertainty and the uncomfortableness of that. So we've gone ahead and we've stripped all the risk away for you in a couple capacities. The first is, if you want to have a conversation with Jim Miller and maybe find out how he can help you or your organization get out of a scarcity mindset or blow past a income ceiling or whatever it might be for you, you have that opportunity now at no risk to you. So you can go to rapidnlp.com/Jim Miller. There'll be some information there, and you guys will have the opportunity to have a conversation and see how there can be a mutually beneficial relationship there. The second option is the NLP Profit Blueprint CD, which I put in my best techniques and strategies for how anyone, whether you're just getting started or whether you're an expert in NLP, to take that knowledge and create wealth for yourself with a proven roadmap. So go ahead and claim your copy now. There's not many copies that we have available for free, but if the link is available right now, it's there on your website. Go ahead and click that, take action, make sure you claim your copy today. I'm happy to avail that to you so that I can open you to the same opportunities that I've had and some of the opportunities that Jim's had at really no risk on your part. So I appreciate you watching this. And Jim, it's always great talking with you. I can't recommend you highly enough to the listeners and the viewers on this call. I've learned a tremendous amount from you as well as some close friends of mine that are here with me traveling in Eastern Europe. And thank you for that. And thank you for your time here. I'll give you the closing words if you want to say anything to the people that are still listening.
Well, here's the closing words, and that is that whatever truly you are desiring to do in life, but for some reason it's not being fulfilled. There's a reason, and that reason is something that you're unable to get beyond yourself, and because of the fear, the uncertainty, or not knowing what the pathway is, or believing incorrectly that there's a certain right way to do it, and unless you do it that right way, you're going to fail. That psychology is going to keep you out of the game and out of a place where you're really destined to be. If you have the desire, what a desire is basically an unfulfilled destiny. You have the right, you have the desire, you have that. This is your calling to do what it is that you have in you as a desire to realize. And sometimes, in most cases, it takes, like it takes a doctor or a midwife to give birth to a child. It's the same thing, that sometimes it takes another individual to facilitate you in giving birth to whatever your dream and your desire is. And there's nothing wrong, there's nothing shameful in reaching out for that. As a matter of fact, it's a smart move. I mean, athletes do it, actors do it, business people do it. Anybody that I know that has achieved at an extraordinary level, just like you're doing right now and watching this video with Tim and reaching out to his program, continue to do this. Surround yourself with experts and individuals that you can leverage their experience and their expertise and make it your own. And really, irrespective of whatever feelings you have, still take the action. There is no wrong action except that not taking. Do you understand? There's no wrong action except that not taking. The most important thing you can do is make the mistakes, because all a mistake is an opportunity to make an adjustment. A mistake is a place where you adjust, where you learn how to make adjustments, and that's what business is. It's a constant going forward, getting into a situation where you have to now do an analysis, you have to do a determination, maybe you misstep. That's okay. You make an adjustment from there, right? And this is how it is you proceed in business at this level. And these are the things that we teach and we coach. Right. So anyway, that's my parting words. Best of luck to you guys. God bless you, and thank you for giving me this opportunity to share some of my thoughts with you as well. It's good seeing you too, Tim.
Awesome, Jim. Thanks so much again, and thanks for watching.